Thank you for that. We're going to move on now to another segment that we do here on the show, which is a lot of fun, called Start, Sub, or Sit.
All right. Okay, Luke, our first one. I mean, we've talked about it a lot. You've played for a number of different coaches so far in your career. So this question is what you kind of value most from a coach over the course of a season. So start, sub, or sit, their late game tactics, their understanding of the flow of a season, as far as when to maybe push guys, when to, back off, running a practice middle of January, or their interpersonal skills, their ability to communicate with their players.
Okay, so starting would be the one I appreciate most, right?
Yes.
And sitting. Okay, I think I'm going to sit end of game situations.
Okay.
Because I think especially nowadays, you can dice up end of game situations so many different ways, but any coach that's been around for more than one season or two seasons, they're going to know kind of, they're going to have their things to do at the end of a game and know how to manage that. So I'm going to say that. Number two, the sub. I think I'm going to say, this is tough. It might be a tie, to be honest, but just to create some controversy, I'm going to say number two is the interpersonal skills.
Okay.
So it easily could be one. And I think that just has to do with me being more of a veteran now, and you kind of know how to, depending on who the coach is, to, how you approach, day-to-day work. But having a coach who's great, with interpersonal skills is, great with players and communicating is really big because, that can give you an advantage, in terms of creating good chemistry and getting on the same page, with the players I think is easier said than done. So if a coach can really do that and communicate what they want, or, what point of the season they're in, that's great. And then I'm going to start understanding the flow of the season. And I think that's more, I say that coming off of 9 games in 20 days. So I think that just might be a little more recent, in terms of my memory. And, there's, especially with our Euroleague season, and, we're not traveling charter, we're hopping on Ryanair flights and what have you. But so it takes a big toll on the body, not spending a lot of time at home. Sometimes, we got a week at home in Berlin starting, today. So it's like, it feels like vacation, but, and our coach is great at understanding that. And, the ebbs and flows of the season, injuries are going to happen. Guys are going to be coming back from injury, which are almost more difficult than having guys out. Right. My dad always says, everyone thinks it's great to get an injured player back, but usually it gets worse before it gets better. Cause that player has to get comfortable again on the court. Everyone has to readjust, to that player being on the court a different amount of minutes. And, maybe some guy who didn't have to look over his shoulder for a sub, before, when that player was hurt, now has that kind of doubt in his mind. So I think it's a very difficult thing to do. But I think it's something, especially if you play a lot of games, that a player really respects in a coach.
Let's just start with the flow of the season, because I think that's like Pat and I were talking beforehand. I wouldn't say it's an undervalued skill as a coach. I mean, I think all coaches work at that. But I guess from a player's standpoint, when you've played for coaches that you really trust, I guess what is it that they do during the middle of the season that gives you confidence, like for them as a coach to know that, hey, they're managing our practice flow, they're managing how we feel, like, is there something that they have done specifically that's given you confidence in them as a coach, that they really understand the pulse of the team?
I think a lot of people would say, they ask the players how they're feeling. But I think for me, the biggest thing is kind of just being an open book a little bit. and maybe that's different for high school kids, or, they're not as mature or whatever you want to say, but as pros, if you're coming off a tough road trip and you got a game, in 48 hours, so you got to come back and practice the next day. You get back late from a trip and the next morning at 11, you got to come practice. I think for a coach to, at the start of that practice, be like, hey, look, guys, I know we're tired. We came off a tough trip, but we need to practice. It's not going to be long. We're going to work on this, this, and this. It makes it so much easier for that player to be like, okay, look, this is what I got to get to today. If we do this, we'll be good. It's not, wondering, oh, are we going to practice, one-on-one full court defense today or what have you. But, being open and honest is huge. Obviously, sometimes asking the players, but I think most coaches do a good job of kind of realizing, where their players are at in terms of, fatigue and, it's obvious when you play 9 games in 20 days, guys are going to be a little bit cooked. Right. So, I think more than anything is just being open and honest and being like, look, I would love to give you guys a day off, but we got a big game tomorrow that we need to practice for, and it's not going to be long. And, let's do that. Or, guys, we're just going to do video, just a light 5-on-0 and a workout, or, we need to be fresh for tomorrow. Or, I think it's important we have a shoot around tomorrow just to kind of get the body moving after a long trip. And also we got to talk about a couple things, it's just kind of cluing the players in and making the players feel involved.
Luke, just a quick technical follow-up to the practice in between 2 games. And you mentioned, hey, different styles of maybe you do need to practice, coach says we're going to go for 45 minutes, or, hey, we're just going to do film or 5-on-0. As a player, I know it's probably different depending on the part of the season, but would you prefer a shorter little bit of 5-on-5 just to kind of keep your flow, or in between games, are you more film and 5-on-0 and keep your body fresh?
Depends on how my body's feeling, to be honest. Yeah. For me, it's tough I think the worst thing, and me and my teammates talk about this all the time, is the coaches saying, we're just go 70% or 60%. Cause you're sitting there like, let's either go all out or, 5-on-0, like, no defense or shell, shadow defense, whatever you want to call it. Cause, obviously one guy's 70% is different from another guy's 70%. And also if, one guy goes 70, the guy he's playing against is probably going to get competitive and go 75 and then 85. And then all of a sudden some guys are going, full on, and the other guys are kind of just sitting there like, what the hell is going on? But, so for me, it's, with as many games as we play, I'm more of a, 5-on-0. It's got to be more of a mental focus. And giving the guys the time to warm up, giving them the opportunity to get some shots up. We always finish with, partner shoot at the end of the game, or, at the end of a practice in between games. A lot of times do some 5-on-0 or, 2-on-0, sure. Working on, certain things that might give us an advantage in the game the next day. But, again, it has to come with trusting your guys a little bit. And, at the professional level, I think it's a lot easier, guys knowing their body and knowing they need a little extra work here or what have you. And if guys want to go a little harder, they'll go play 1-on-1, after, sure. If they want to, guys that don't play many minutes or whatever. But, you don't want to mandate so much taxing work. But if guys need it, they can go get it. So
your sit, the late game tactical stuff, as a player, end of game, when there's a lot of pressure and, you're trying to get both tactical stuff done / also try to, stay motivated, whatever it is that is going on in that huddle. Over the course of your career, what have been some things coaches have done in those late game timeouts or huddles that like you just need at the end of a game? Like, do you just need quick tactical stuff? Do you need some type of pump up to, hey, we can do this? Like, what really works for you end of game situation?
I think it's just showing some show of confidence, when it's clear, concise ideas, right? You get the board and you go, what's worse than like coach drawing up a play and then actually, you know what, like, let's do this. And, if you walk in and, I've had a lot of coaches who go, okay, Luke, you're taking it out. Maudo, you're going to be here to try and work for the ball. This is option one. Option two, you may have this pass here. And just to be clear and concise, because then when you got that and it's a clear idea, you don't have to worry about, there's no doubt there, right? And you can worry about, okay, now we got to put it into action, right?
Yeah.
So, I think it's important to show to calm. Aito was the king of that, where sometimes you wonder if he even had a pulse. Sometimes it was like, Aito, we're in, the finals game and it's 5 seconds left, and he's just kind of, okay, we're going to go here. But it kind of calms you down a little bit and shows you have control and makes things clear and concise, because there's a million things going on in guys' heads, especially the end of the game, whether it's how you played, throughout the game or, am I going to make or miss this shot or am I going to be playing in this last play? So to kind of eliminate the variables and make it pretty clear and concise is important.
And Luke, can I just quick follow up?
Yeah, sure.
What really grabs your attention? Because sometimes I think as a coach in a huddle, you're saying something and it looks like the player is just, his head is somewhere else and it's hard to get them. Like, I guess you said, clear, concise stuff. But coaches that do a good job of just like bringing you in, giving you like maybe one thing. I mean, how many things can you really take from that huddle to go back out to the floor to execute?
Yeah. I see it as a player where, someone gets a foul and they're talking with the ref and we're trying to huddle up the team. And I feel like so many times I'm screaming at the guy, hey, get in here, and it's like they got the blinders on because they're so concerned with something. And so obviously there's the same problem with the coach, where if you see a guy that's kind of, his head's somewhere else, and I think maybe a good way to get him back in is, well, hey, you want to keep it simple. You don't want to put too much on their plate, obviously. And if you see a guy kind of, losing it a little bit, you can always sub him, which is good, but to make sure you ask him a question to see if he's engaged, and not like, hey, are you here? It'd be like, hey, do you want to take out the ball, or do you want to be here or here? And it may be a position that's not one of the guys that's going to get that final shot, but, make them feel involved. And, I know as a player, there's so many times and with so many games that you're sitting there looking at the board and not at the end of the game, but, during the game, and you got something going on in your head and the coach draws up a play and you walk, you break down, you walk out, and I'm sitting there like, I have no idea what he just said in that timeout, like, I don't know. And so I have to go to my teammates and ask them, hey, sorry, what are we running? And, obviously there's the guys that are don't realize what we're running or weren't listening and they're too embarrassed to ask what we're running. And, that's just bad for everyone, right? Because then they don't know what the hell's going on. But, I think, that can fall on the teammates as well. If you get good leaders on the team, then they can obviously see that and make sure they're, maybe they can come at them from that angle.
Absolutely.
Luke, my quick follow-up is just, what do you find the value in the player-led little huddles, a free throw or a dead ball when you bring the team together? Well, what's the value in that?
Yeah, I know it seems kind of corny sometimes, to be honest. But I think there's a lot of value in just kind of looking everyone in the eye, right? Especially when a team's going on a big run or they make a bad foul or whatever. I'm quick to get everyone in the huddle. And a lot of times I'm not even saying like, what play we're going to run or anything. I'm just like, hey guys, like they're making a run. Everyone, take a deep breath, stay in it, and let's go down and do something. And it kind of just recenters guys and resets them sometime. And I think it shows that, hey, we're still all in here, going to battle it out. Because when guys start, I know it's bad in the game when the team goes on the run and, usually it's just one guy you got to kind of wrangle in. But when it's like three guys, it's not a good sign. Maybe it's better to take a timeout, but it's I think more than anything is just kind of like the physical, everyone getting in a huddle and looking at each other in the eyes and being like, okay, we're still here. We're still going to compete. I think